It's now my pleasure to introduce some live music rather than recorded music for you here today. Jerry Bird is a freelance writer, editor and musician who began to read Hardy in the 1970s when he first discovered he could just about afford to buy Macmillan pocket editions on his meagre pocket money from second-hand bookshops. The classic Wordsworth editions later compounded his addiction. He has played folk music since his teenage years and has been a member of more obscure bands than he cares to remember. Until lockdown, he ran folk music sessions in and around Dorchester on a regular basis. I've attended some, they were brilliant. And he's played guitar and acoustic fiddle for the Cayley band, the Stomping Boondocks, and electric violin for the folk rock band State of Undress. And hopefully, when some sense of normality returns in the future, this will continue to happen. He has written articles on folklore and folk music for various publications, both popular and academic, ranging from the Dorchester Voice magazine to the proceedings of the DNHAS, and has been the editor of Merry Meet magazine, which is a journal of folklore and pagan heritage, since 2000. Most recently, he has begun to contribute articles to the Dorset magazine, and if anybody subscribes to it or has bought it at W.H. Smith, he's just written Haunted Dorset, and it's well worth a read. Owing to injuring his right arm in a freak gardening accident 6 weeks ago, he will be joined by fellow folk musician and violinist Lucy Allen for this presentation. Lucy is part of Tatterdemalion, as you saw Alistair Simpson was. Lucy is also a new Hardy player. She is a co-conspirator in all of the folk music sessions, especially at the Convivial Rabbit, and she's just an all-round good egg. And so I would like to, without further ado, take it away, Jerry and Lucy, with Adieu, Sweet Lovely Nancy, songs and tunes from the French Wars.
Thank you, Tracy. When I first started to research tunes and songs for this particular presentation, I was astonished at how many I already knew. Actually, delving into the history of songs and tunes is quite a fascinating exercise. And the more that I read about them, the more tunes, particularly tunes, I realised were already in my repertoire. So roughly 2/3 of the songs and tunes I already knew, but I didn't know much actually about them. I just liked them because I performed them. And so I put together some brief notes about each song and each tune, which I will introduce each piece with. All the songs and tunes, with one exception, one written by Hardy himself, that we're going to be doing, the one may be dated to the period, roughly speaking, 1795 to 1815. So as is the way with folk songs, which tend to metamorphose over time, some are actually earlier songs or tunes which were adapted for use during that period. I'm going to start with the title song of this presentation, a rather beautiful song called Adieu, Sweet Lovely Nancy. It's one of the best known songs involving a sailor leaving his family to go to sea to fight for the crown. It's known all over the country, but it was notably in the repertoire of the Copper family from Rottingdean in Sussex, who popularised it in the last century. It's a reminder that not all sailors in the Navy were pressed. Some enlisted for the promise of travel and adventure. It was certainly not for the rations, which were generally inedible, and the pay was rubbish. We've already heard how little the soldiers tended to earn. Well, naval tars were paid roughly around half that amount. Those who were pressed were generally treated like slaves. They were kept below decks in filthy conditions and were never allowed shore leave. So here we go. Adieu, Sweet Lovely Nancy. It was in tune when I bought it. lovely Nancy, 10,000 times adieu. I am going across the ocean, love, to seek for something new. Come change your ring with me, dear girl, come change your ring with me, for it might be a token of true love while I am on the seas. And when I'm far upon the sea, you'll know not where I am. Kind letters I will write to you from every foreign land. The secrets of your heart, dear girl, are the best of my goodwill. So let your body be where it might, my heart will be with you still. There's a heavy storm arising, see how it gathers round, while we poor souls on the ocean wide are fighting for the crown. There's nothing to protect us, love, or keep us from the cold, on the ocean wide where we must fight like jolly seamen bold. Tinkers, tailors, shoemakers lie snoring fast asleep, while we poor souls on the ocean wide are ploughing through the deep. Our officers commanded us, and them we must obey, expecting every moment for to get cast away. But when the wars are over, there'll be peace on every shore. We'll return to our wives and our families and the girls that we adore. We'll drink our liquor merrily and spend our money free. And when the money, it is all gone, we'll boldly go to sea. Right, unfortunately, as I've snapped tendons in my bicep on my right arm, emptying a bin of hedge trimmings, I was going to be playing all the tunes and songs. Actually, I shouldn't say unfortunately, I mean fortunately, because I've damaged my arm, there's the opportunity to hear two musicians instead of just me, which you must all be thankful for. And Lucy's going to play the new rigged ship, which is, or rather was, actually published at least as long ago as 1804. That's the earliest reference I could find to it, so it's perfectly in the period. It may even have been played to celebrate the commission of a new vessel, who knows. It appears in many manuscript collections, including that of the Hardy family. Ooh, I've got to take that off. chords down.
Sorry. We're going a bit quick.
No. I forgot the G chord, which I've never ever done before. Right, of course, most folk songs, in fact, up until the, should we say halfway through the 20th century, were never written for instrumental accompaniment. So to give you an idea, perhaps, of what a song of the period might have sounded like when it was sung, I'm going to do this one unaccompanied. It's called "In the Midst of Night." It was collected in Dorset by the Hammond brothers, by the way. I forget exactly where. I couldn't find my Hammond brothers collection notes to find out precisely where, but it is a Dorset version of the song. It's one of a body of songs in which a wife or lover fails to recognise her partner returning from the war. And there are a lot of these. What we must remember is that the men were often away for years at a time. Many would have returned looking somewhat different from when they had left. They would have been older, more weather-beaten, and quite possibly maimed or scarred by their experience, physically and mentally, quite possibly. Also, we must remember that there were no snapshots to remind the wife or lover of their man's appearance. Very often in such songs, the returnee teases their partner, usually pretending to be a stranger. This is actually one of the more strange songs of the genre, as the protagonist claims that the woman's partner was killed in battle and claims her for his own. It is actually also slightly ambiguous as to who has actually returned, especially as the last two lines are in the first person. So see what you think. "'Twas in the midst of night, when darkness was all over, the moon did give no light, no nor could discover. Down by some riverside where ships were sailing, a lovely lass I spied, a weeping and a wailing. I boldly stepped up to her, asked her what grieved her. The answer that she made, no one could relieve her. For they pressed my love, cried she, for to cross the wide ocean. And my heart is like the sea, always in motion. Mark well, my lovely lass, mark well my story. It was your true love and I fought for England's glory. And by one heavy shot we both got parted. Great was the wound he got, oh, he died valiant-hearted. That right he had in you, to me he gave it. Now since it is my due, pray let me have it. She wrung her hands and cried, flew up in anger. Begone, young man, cried she, for I'll wed no stranger. Into her arms he flew, he could stay no longer. I am your true love, cried he, I'll deceive no further. God bless the ship, cried she, that brought my lover. And God bless the wind, cried he, that brought me over. Then they both sat down and sang, but my love sang clearest, like a nightingale in spring. You're welcome home, my dearest. Very strange song.
I didn't catch the title of that song.
It's called "In the Midst of Night."
Thank you.
This one might be familiar to some of you. It's actually a lament from the days of Waterloo. It's called The Bonny Light Horseman. It's actually a folk song that was taken up and printed by many broadside printers. There are 5 versions by different broadsiders in London alone. The song also became very popular in Ireland, presumably where it was also published, and it survived to be recorded by Planxty with Christy Moore on vocals in the 1970s, which popularised it during the folk revival, and it's one of the more commonly sung songs in folk clubs today. This is roughly the version that Planxty recorded, mainly because I really like the tune. But there are lots of other tunes that it goes to.
Can you say the title of that one again?
This one,
Yes.
the one I'm about to do.
Sorry?
The one I'm about to do.
Yeah.
The Bonny Light Horseman.
Thank you.
Oh, Napoleon Bonaparte, you're the cause of my woe, since my bonny light horseman to the wars he did go. Broken-hearted I'll wander, broken-hearted I'll remain, since my bonny light horseman in the wars he was slain. When Boney commanded his armies to stand, and proud lift his banners, all gaily and grand, he levelled his cannon right over the plain, and my bonny light horseman in the wars he was slain. Oh, Napoleon Bonaparte, you're the cause of my woe, since my bonny light horseman to the wars he did go. Broken-hearted I'll wander, broken-hearted I'll remain, since my bonny light horseman in the wars he was slain. And if I was some small bird, and had wings and could fly, I would fly over the salt sea where my true love does lie. 3 years and 6 months now since he left this bright shore. Oh, my bonny light horseman, will I never see you more? Oh, Napoleon Bonaparte, you're the cause of my woe, since my bonny light horseman to the wars he did go. Broken-hearted I'll wander, broken-hearted I'll remain, since my bonny light horseman in the wars he was slain. And the dove she laments for her mate as she flies. Oh, where, tell me where, is my true love, she sighs. And where in this wide world is there one to compare with my bonny light horseman who was killed in the war? Oh, Napoleon Bonaparte, you're the cause of my woe, since my bonny light horseman to the wars he did go. Broken-hearted I'll wander, broken-hearted I'll remain, since my bonny light horseman in the wars he was slain. The Bonny Light Horseman. One way of a soldier or sailor fighting in foreign wars of actually proving his identity on his return was for the lovers to share a token. This could be a coin, or more usually a ring with his wife or lover, which would be broken in two, or presumably sawn into the case of a coin. This is the classic broken token song. It's often known as Fair Phoebe and Her Dark-Eyed Sailor. It's usually sung as simply the Dark-Eyed Sailor these days. It tells the story of two lovers who break a token, a ring, in half when they are parted. And it originated in the late 18th century, this one, probably a little bit before the turn of the century. So, again, it's within the sort of the remit of the period that we're talking about. It was printed on street ballad sheets in the early 19th century and survived in the oral tradition into the 20th century when it was collected in Suffolk, where it was particularly popular. This version is roughly the one that Steele I Span sang in the 1960s. The Dark-Eyed Sailor. As I rode out one evening fair, it being the summertime, to take the air, I spied a sailor and a lady gay, and I stood to listen, and I stood to listen to hear what they would say. He said, "Fair lady, why do you roam? For the day is spent and the night is on." She heaved a sigh while the tears did roll for my dark-eyed sailor, for my dark-eyed sailor, so young and stout and bold. Seven long years since he left this land, a ring he took from his lily white hand. One half of the ring is still here with me, but the other's rolling, but the other's rolling at the bottom of the sea. Said you may drive him out of your mind. Some other young man you will surely find. Love turns aside and soon cold has grown, like the winter's morning, like the winter's morning. The hills are white with snow. Said I will never forsake my dear, although we're parted this many a year. Genteel he was, and a rake like you, to induce a maiden, to induce a maiden to a slight, the jacket blue. One half of the ring did young William show. She ran distracted in grief and woe, saying, William, William, I had gold in store for my dark-eyed sailor, for my dark-eyed sailor has proved his honour long. A cottage by yonder lea, this couple's married and does agree, so maids be loyal when your love's at sea, for a cloudy morning, for a cloudy morning brings in a sunny day. The Dark-Eyed Sailor. That's one of those very rare things, an English folk song with a happy ending. Right. This is one that very few people have probably heard. It's the March of the Sussex Fencibles. The Fencibles, from the word defensible, were the British Army regiments raised in Britain and the colonies for defence against the threat of invasion during the 7 Years' War, the American War of Independence and the French Revolutionary Wars in the late 18th century. They were usually temporary units composed of local volunteers, which Hardy somewhat lampoons in the Trumpet Major, and but they were commanded by regular army officers. Their role was, as their name suggests, confined to local patrols and the garrison duties, thus freeing up the regular army units to perform offensive operations. The Dorset Fencibles probably had a band, though as far as I know, no specific tunes from the Dorset Fencibles have survived. This tune, which is obviously from the Sussex Fencibles, was transcribed from an old engraving of a manuscript, which I was lucky enough to spot on, I think it was the ABE book site, many years ago, and it had been found by an Australian book dealer. And I think it was over 20 years ago, and it cost me 25 quid. I think I was probably a lot better off in those days than I am now. Its title is Two Favourite Marches of the Sussex Fencibles and 6 New Country Dances for the Pianoforte. That's rather a lot of music, so we're not going to do all of it. We're just going to do March number 1, and I'm going to accompany Lucy on drum, because didn't really have time to work out a guitar part for it, and I think the drum is more suitable for March anyway. If I can find me thingy. Where's it gone? There it is. Right. missing a page of notes. Where have we gone? Yes, here we go. This is an extremely well-known folk song called The Bold Grenadier. And it's also known as Nightingales Sing, which some people might know it better by. In 1815, the Duke of Wellington took command of a multinational army that composed British, Dutch, Belgian and German troops in the culmination of the 20-year conflict with the revolutionary and Napoleonic France. Such was the contribution of non-British troops to the victory at Waterloo that in a recent revisionist history of the campaign, it was referred to as the German victory. Alongside the regiments of the British Army at Waterloo were units from allied nations including Hanover, Brunswick, the new Kingdom of Holland and a separate Prussian army. Also present within Wellington's army was the King's German Legion, a corps of Hanoverians that had been created when that electorate was overrun by the French in 1803. The Bold Grenadier, or Nightingale Song, first appears actually in the 17th century and is known throughout Britain in various versions. The soldier is sometimes a brave volunteer, sometimes an artilleryman, but the fact that here he is a foreigner would suggest that this version dates from around the time of Waterloo. And it would seem it was one of Hardy's favourite folk songs. But I'm not so sure it's not in Tess. I'm feeling it is. Oop. Sorry. Sorry, we kept having disasters during practice when I forgot to move my cap around. As I was a-walking one morning in May, I spied a young couple a-making of hay. Oh, one was a pretty maid and her beauty shone clear. The other was a soldier, a bold grenadier. A-walking and a-talking and a-walking together. Oh, a-walking so far till they couldn't tell whither. So they sat themselves down by the clear crystal stream for to see the flowers grow and hear the nightingale sing. In kisses and compliments he took her round the middle, and out of his knapsack he drew forth his fiddle. And he played such a fine tune as made the groves ring. Hark, hark, said the fair maid, how the nightingale sing. Come, said the soldier, 'tis time to give order. Oh no, said the fair maid, we'll have one tune more. For I do like your music and the tune of your string. I do like to see the flowers grow and hear the nightingale sing. Come, says the fair maid, will you marry me? Oh no, says the soldier, that never can be. For I've got me a wife in my own country. Oh, so fair a woman that you ever did see. I've got me a wife there and children 3, 2 wives and the army's too many for me. But if I should return, Oh, we'll be in the spring. I will show you how the flowers grow and make the nightingale sing. The Bold Grenadier. This is a very well-known folk tune, which Hardy knew very well. It appears in his wonderful poem, The Dance at the Phoenix, and also in Far from the Madding Crowd, where it is played at the wedding feast. And I quote, "So the dance began. As for the merits of the soldier's joy, there cannot be, and never were, two opinions. It has been observed in the musical circles of Weatherbury and its vicinity that this melody, at the end of 3/4 of an hour of thunderous footing, still possesses more stimulative properties for the heel and toe than the majority of other dances at their first opening. The soldier's joy has, too, an additional charm, being so admirably adapted to the tambourine aforesaid, no mean instrument in the hands of a performer who understands the proper convulsions, spasms, St. Vitus's dances, and fearful frenzies necessary when exhibiting its tones in their highest perfection." If you've ever heard me play the tambourine, you'll be very glad I'm going to be playing the guitar now. That was called Soldier's Joy.
Not 3/4 of an hour of it.
Pardon?
And not for 3/4 of an hour.
No.
No.
No, we thought that might be a bit excessive. Broadside ballads are often not considered folk songs in the true sense of the word, as unlike true folk songs, they were not usually written by anyone involved with the action, but by professional songwriters and publishers. This song, called Bold Nelson's Praise, appeared as a broadside ballad shortly after Nelson's victory at Trafalgar in 1805. Nelson was celebrated in many songs and verses, although ballads about Napoleon have actually survived in greater numbers. The names Lord Howe, Viscount Duncan and Sir Sidney Smith mentioned in the song were all famous naval commanders. They were associated respectively with the naval victories of the glorious 1st of June 1794, Camperdown 1797 and the defence of St. Jean d'Arc in 1799. I'm going to sing it, as it is traditionally sung, to a variant of the famous Irish harper Turlough Carolan's Princess Royal. The tune had previously been used by Durham composer and former boat builder William Shield in his musical The Lock and the Key. He set the words of a song called Arethusa in the libretto to the tune. I think it was Colt Hall wrote the libretto. Arethusa was the name of an English ship involved in a skirmish with the French in the English Channel in 1778. Interestingly, this is the only tune that was actually published during Carolan's lifetime. He actually lived from 1670 to 1738, and he would no doubt have been astonished that his tune ended up in a patriotic operetta and was later used for a song about England's most famous naval commander. He would probably have been even more surprised that it later emerged, changed to a major key, as a Morris dance tune in the 19th century. So it just goes to show you how the folk tradition metamorphoses its material. This one deserves a drum. I've got to find my note.
Bold Nelson's praise I am going to sing, not forgetting our glorious king. He always did good tidings bring, for he was a bold commander. There were Sidney Smith and Duncan too, Lord Howe and all the glorious crew. They were the men that were true blue, full of care, yet I swear none with Nelson could compare, not even Alexander. Bold Bonaparte, he threatened war, a man who feared not wound nor scar, but still he lost at Trafalgar, where Britain was victorious. Lord Nelson's actions made him quake, and all French powers he made to shake. He said his king he'd ne'er forsake. These last words thus he spake: stand true, my lads, like hearts of oak, and the battle shall be glorious. Lord Nelson bold, though threatened wide, and many a time he had been tried, he fought like a hero till he died, amid the battle gory. But the day was won, their line was broke, while all around was lost in smoke, and Nelson, he got his death stroke. That's the man for old England. He faced his foe with his sword in his hand, and he lived and he died in glory.
Right. So if that wasn't a folk song, neither is this really. But Hardy didn't make a bad job of it, I reckon. You heard Alistair do Tim Laycock's version of the Sergeant's song. I'm afraid I wasn't very keen on the tune that Tim Laycock came up with, so I've written my own. So this is a slightly different version. I was looking for the version that I printed yesterday with the chords slightly larger, but I can't find it, so I'll have to come a little bit closer. I want you to join in with this one. It might sound a little bit weird with the muffled masks and everything, but you can join in with the chorus at the end of each verse. It goes: rollicum roarum tollalorum, rollicum roarum tollalay. You reckon you can do that? 2, 3, 4. Rollicum roarum tollalorum, rollicum roarum tollalay.
And it repeats.
Little bit louder. Bop, bop. Rollicum roarum tollalorum, rollicum roarum tollalay. Okay. Lawyers strive to heal a breach, and parsons practice what they preach. Then little Boney he'll pants down and march his men on London town. Rollicum roarum tollalorum, rollicum roarum tollalay. And again, rollicum roarum tollalorum, rollicum roarum tollalay. says hold equal scales, and rogues are only found in jails. Then little bony hillman down and marches men on London town. Rollickum-roarum, tollalorum, rollickum-roarum, tollolay. Rollickum-roarum, tollalorum, rollickum-roarum, tollolay. When rich men find their wealth a curse, and fill therewith the poor man's purse, then little bony heel pants down and march his men on London town. Rollickum-roarum, tollalorum, rollickum-roarum, tollolay. Rollickum-roarum, tollalorum, rollickum-roarum, tollolay. When husbands with their wives agree, and maids won't wed from modesty, then little bony heel pants down and marches men on London town. Rollickum-roarum, tollalorum, rollickum-roarum, tollolay. Rollickum-roarum, tollalorum, rollickum-roarum, tollolay. How are we doing for time? One more. We've got one. Oh, yes. Yes, sorry, we've gone slightly over. Beg your pardon. Right, so we'll do this once through then.
We're only going to do it once through, I think.
Well, unless we have more time, but I've been rabbiting on a bit.
Okay.
Right, we're going to finish off with a tune commonly known as The Fall of Paris. And I need my last... There we are. This is one tune that when I researched it, I thought, blimey, this is fascinating. For starters, it's a very adaptable tune that Hardy chose to end the Dance of the Phoenix with. It was actually played when the Allied regiments entered Paris after the Battle of Waterloo, so it's rather, what should we say, appropriate for finishing a set of French war songs off with. Unfortunately, though, when Wellington heard it played, he put a firm stop to it, and the offending Royal Regiment was told to play Croppy's Lie Down instead, which is a tune I don't actually know. The reason for Wellington's ire was probably the fact that it had been used as the tune for the song Ah Sa Era, which contains the line Les aristocrates à la lanterne, which roughly translates as Let's go and lynch the aristocrats. And this song was sung by the first and bloodiest French revolutionaries in the 1780s. It was certainly sung during the storming of the Bastille. However, the tune was originally a dance tune, a French tune, for a quadrille. It was known as Le Carillon National. It was composed in France in the 18th century, but its exact date and the name of the composer unfortunately aren't known. It was picked up and became popular in this country and was played by British army bands during the Peninsular War against Napoleon's armies. Its dance roots later gradually resurfaced, and in 1805 it was printed in O'Farrell's Pocket Companion for the Uilleann or Union Pipes, and in 1816 the melody was again printed, this time in England, in London dancing master Thomas Wilson's Companion to the Ballroom. So, I've arranged it for two violins.
So once through but with repeats.
Pardon?
Once through but with repeats.
With
repeats.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes, with repeats. Okay. 2, 3, 4.
Thank you very much, Jerry, and thank you very much, Lucy. That was absolutely amazing. I hope you all liked the change of pace there.